At the end of this lesson, the student should be able to apply cost plus pricing and target costing, determine the selling price using the various pricing approaches. So a good product can flourish or fail in the market depending on its price. If the price is deemed too high, the customers will look for cheaper alternatives and sales will be lost. If the price is too low, you may sell a decent number, but your profit margins will take a hit. So now you are torn between setting your prices high or setting your prices low. Of course, if you choose either of the two, you have to sacrifice another. If you price your products too high, then you will lose some customers. On the other hand, if you price your products too low, then you may not achieve your desired profits. The cost of an item also helps define its perceived value to potential buyers and the value of your brand. It can help paint a picture about a product's desirability, usefulness, popularity, or quality. Oftentimes, we associate higher prices with the quality of the product. So if the price of the products are expensive, we deem that it is of top-notch quality or it has so many features, it is worth the price. On the other hand, if the product is priced too low or too cheap, we think that it is substandard or it does not possess good quality compared to those brands or to those products which are expensive. Underpricing a product can be worthwhile from a competitive point of view, but for the wrong product, it can also make consumers think less of its value. Additionally, if you're relying on retail outlets like supermarkets to stock your products, they may give preferential shelf space to higher priced competitors because they bring in more margin despite offering less value for money to customers. This is one situation in which dropping your pricing can make you less competitive rather than more. So this means that not at all times that when you lower your price, you would get a better market share or your products would be preferred by the customers. It depends on the place, it depends on the types of customers, it depends on the income that your customer have, their status. So dili gid ma-generalize na if barato tangkilikon or kung mahal dili na po siya tangkilikon. But it is important that we know what would be the better pricing strategy that is suitable for our products and services. Pricing is defined as the amount of money that you charge for your products, but understanding it requires much more than that simple definition. Baked into your pricing are indicators to your potential customers about how much you value your brand, product, and customers. It's one of the first things that can push a customer towards or away from buying your product. As such, it should be calculated with certainty. So here are some of the suggested pricing strategies that you can apply. The first one is the cost-based pricing, or sometimes it's also called as cost plus pricing. From the term itself, it is based on cost. So your starting point here is you need to know what is the cost of your products and services. So the cost-based pricing identifies the overall fixed, variable, and indirect costs of production and prices that product accordingly. Cost-based pricing is a fairly straightforward concept where the organization understands the operation costs of product, a given good, and prices that good as close to this cost level as possible. It's also called as cost plus pricing because you add on the markup to the cost. So for example, you have set your markup to be 5%, then you're adding 5% to its cost. So for example, if it costs 10 pesos, so you would compute 5% of 10 pesos and add that to your 10 pesos. So you will come up with a selling price of 10 pesos and 50 centavos. So here your cost is 10 and your plus would be the markup of 5%. So the formula here would be your target selling price is equivalent to your cost plus the markup percentage times cost. Products, however, may be costed in at least two different ways. You can use the absorption approach or you can use the contribution approach. What differs the two approaches is what type of cost will you include in the definition of cost here. So in the absorption approach, the cost based is equivalent to the cost to manufacture one unit and therefore exclude the selling, general, and administrative expenses. So again, it only focuses on the cost to manufacture. Meanwhile, the contribution approach, it based its pricing on the cost, which consists of all the variable costs associated with a product, including the variable, selling, general, and administrative expenses. So again, so for the absorption costing, it only includes the manufacturing costs. So if the cost is not related to the production or manufacturing, like your selling, general, and administrative expenses, then that would be excluded. So walay apel tong dili manufacturing cost. So whether fixed or variable, appeal sa absorption approach as long as these are manufacturing costs. So what would be included in the absorption approach? So that would the costs here would include your direct materials. Of course, that is your cost manufacture. Then direct labor plus your variable overhead and the fixed overhead. Okay, so these are your cost to manufacture. Meanwhile, in the contribution approach, what would be included are all variable costs, whether they are manufacturing or they are selling, general, and administrative. So therefore, it includes direct materials, direct labor, then plus your variable costs such as variable overhead and variable selling and general and administrative expenses. Okay, so that would be the inclusion. Now, in both approaches, expenses not included in the cost base are provided through the markup, which should be high enough to provide the company with satisfactory profit margin. So if ever there are costs that were not included in the formula here, then your markup should be enough to cover those other costs excluded in the base. For example, for this one, we have the variable and fixed overhead. So wala ang selling and general and administrative expenses. So when you set up your markup percentage, dapat high enough siya para makover gihapon tong si SGA na wala na tumapil. The same goes with the contribution margin approach, since what was excluded here are the fixed portions. Okay, the fixed overhead and the fixed SGA. Then again, you have to set your markup high enough to cover those which were excluded in the computation of our cost base. Now let's go to the illustrative problem. Assume that Knox Company is in the process of setting a selling price on a product that has just undergone some modifications in design. The following cost estimates for the redesigned product have been provided by the accounting department. So here are the list of our costs and expenses, whether fixed or variable. So the costs above are based on the anticipated volume of 10,000 units produced and sold each period. The company uses cost-plus pricing and has the policy of obtaining target selling prices by adding markup of 50% of unit manufacturing cost or by adding 100% of the variable costs. So this is their policy on the pricing. So either they have the 50% of the manufacturing cost, or it could be 100% of the variable costs. Assume that the company uses absorption costing approach to cost plus pricing. What would be the target selling price? Remember, diba, for the absorption approach, all manufacturing cost, whether variable or fixed, as long as these are your cost to manufacture. Remember, your cost to manufacture involves three: your direct materials, labor, and overhead. So here you have direct materials, direct labor, variable overhead, fixed overhead. So how do we get the fixed overhead here, since this 140,000 is overall? So you are going to divide it by 10,000 units. So to get your rate per unit, so 140,000 divided by 10,000 units. Okay, so that would be 14 peso per unit. So the total manufacturing cost now is 40 pesos. And since the policy is 50% of the manufacturing cost, so 50% of 40 pesos is 20 pesos. Now your selling price would be set at 60 pesos. Okay? Then for the contribution approach, it will include only the variable costs, which include the direct materials, direct labor, variable overhead, and variable SGA. So that's why we have here 12, 8, 6, and 4. So total of 30 pesos. Now, how much would be our markup? According to their policy, that would be 100% of the variable costs, whether that is an overhead or a SGA variable cost. So your target selling price here, therefore, would be 60. Okay, not 30. Okay, sorry. Okay, so that would be 60 pesos target selling price. So based on this problem, okay, whether they use the manufacturing costs alone for the cost base, or they would use the variable cost for as a cost base, it will yield the same target selling price. But this is not always the case, because it depends man sa given. It turned out lang for this problem that either way, they can set the price at 60 pesos. So we have the note here that the contribution approach is essentially the approach recommended by economists who advocate set marginal revenue equal to marginal cost, because the variable costs are those that are dependent on the sales or sa production. So the more you produce, the more would be your variable cost. So most likely, ang mahimong marginal costs would be those that are variable. Now, how do we determine the markup percentage? Okay, to facilitate the computation of selling price, you can use the formulas to determine what will be the appropriate markup percentage. Para dili po ito basta-basta na lang mo set og 5%, 20%, 15%, without taking consideration or without having some factors as determinants. So, assuming that in this case, they have a desired return on investments na sila yung gusto nga mabalik sa ilaha. So, you can use that as your determinant for your markup percentage. So, assume that the ROI and the unit sales volume are given. So, this is how you can determine your markup percentage. So, desired return on assets employed, then deduct the SGA expenses, your selling, general, and administrative, divided by, okay, volume in unit times the unit manufacturing costs. That's for the absorption costing. So, as you can observe in our denominator, the base is on the cost components also of the absorption costing approach. On the other hand, in the contribution approach, the same desired return on assets employed but deducted by fixed cost. Okay, and then all over volume in units times unit variable cost. As you can observe, the item being multiplied are the costs that are considered in the contribution approach. On the numerator side, as you can see here, SGA, diba, is excluded from the cost components of the absorption costing. Kaya diba, ang cost na include adto is all the manufacturing cost. So, wala appeal tong selling, general, and administrative. So, katong wala nalabot sa cost-based absorption costing, mo ito'y imuhang i-deduct here. On the other hand, for the contribution approach, di ba, ang appeal adto all variable. So, you have your direct materials, direct labor, variable overhead, variable SGA. So, ang walay labot na pod ang katong fixed cost. So, ang i-deduct nimo diri katong wala malabot sa iyahang cost base. Next, we have the target costing. So this pricing approach is used when company will already know what price should be charged, and the problem will be to produce the product that can be marketed profitably. Target costing is the process of determining the maximum allowable cost for a new product and then developing a sample that can be profitably manufactured and distributed for that maximum target cost figure. In this case, you already set in mind, okay, pila man ang imuhang target should nga price. Okay? Kaya ba nagid ka pila man imuhang target na price, because to determine your target cost, dapat you already have an idea pila man ang gusto nimo nga baligya. For example, I am planning to sell fashion jewelries. So I want to set the prices lower than my competitor, a bit lower from my competitor. So in our area, I have one competitor and they sell this particular earrings for 100 pesos. So I want to sell my earrings less expensive than theirs. So for example, I'm going to sell it at 95. So you already have your target selling price. And then you also want to determine also how much should be your profit per item. So out of 95 pesos, I want to earn 10 pesos. So therefore, kung 10 pesos akong gusto ma-earn kada earrings na ako mabaligya, therefore, my cost would be 85. So, ang imuhang resources nga gamiton para mahimo tong earrings, or kung pinalit man ganito nimo tong earrings, i-resell na nimo, dapat within 85 pesos para ma-meet nimo ang desired profit o ma-meet po nimo ang target selling price. Or if you are selling cakes, diba? And in the market, ang cake nila is nag-range ng 300 to 400 pesos. So, imuha ng giset nga dapat nagbaligyan ako na apod sa 300 to 400 pesos. Depende sa style, depende ba siya sa kadakon nga na. For example, I want to sell my cakes at 400 pesos. Ang akong 400 pesos na gina siya. So, kung gusto ko na ako nga sa 400 pesos na ako yung makuha nga 100 pesos nga ginan siya. So, dapat ang akong gasto para magama ang cake is 300 pesos. So, kinahanglan ang budget na ako para magama ang cake na 300 pesos, mapaiguan ako. But still, I can produce the 400 peso worth nga cake. Okay? Maubito ng mga transactions, diba nga, ang buyer and seller kay magsabot sila and then moingon ang kitahay ang seller pila may kaya nimo, pila may kwarta nimo kay ato ang paiguan. Okay, so man siya kato si seller adto gitarget na niya nga tatong isulti sa iyang customer nga pila iyang kaya kay tahay mo tong customer ang kaya na kung ang budget na ako or kaya na akong ibayad kay 500 pesos. Ikaw nga seller, kwenta ko na nimo pila may dapat na kung maginansyahan ni. So, kung 50 akong maginansyahan ni, so at least, at least, pinaka-maximum na dapat nga magasto na ako 450. But, if I can spend only lesser than 450, much better. So, my profit would be greater than 50. So, mo siya ang iyahang limit. 450 ang gasto. So, mo siya na ay target nga cost. Unlike the previous one, katong cost plus is, nanay cost, wala ta nag-adjust sa cost adto kay mauna gito siya ang naanga data. Igura ka mo puno og markup. Kani siya is na kay gusto nga selling price, kay gusto nimong mahimong competitive imuhang products with the other products sold on the market. So you need to adjust para ma-minimize imong cost to achieve your target sad nga profit. We have an example here. Karate Auto Supply Incorporated is a producer and distributor of auto supplies. The company desires to enter a rapidly growing market for long-life batteries that is based on a newly discontinued technology. Management believes that to be fully competitive, the new battery in the company is planning the new battery the company is planning cannot be priced at more than 1,300. So, manilang gusto nga selling price. Perhaps the other sellers price their products within this range. At this price, management is confident that the company can sell 12,500 batteries per year. The batteries would require permanent investment of 5 million and desired ROI is 20%. What should be the target cost of one battery? At 1,300 nga price, kinahanglan na natong iset aside, siguro una nato ang gusto nato nga profit. Pila man atong desired profit. Okay, so based on this, problem, how much should be our desired profit? So the desired ROI here is 20%. Okay, and you have your investment of 5 million. Now, how do we get our desired profit here? So we have a 20% return on our investment. So we have 5 million investment times 20%. So our desired net income here is 1 million. So if our total net income for the batteries is 1 million, how much would be the income per battery? So 1 million pesos divided by 12,500 batteries. That would be 80 pesos per battery. Okay, so therefore you have 80 pesos here. So your cost therefore should be within 1 1,220 per battery in order to meet our desired ROI and our desired profit. So therefore, si Karate Auto Supply, kung mag-costing siya, kung palit siya sa raw materials, magbayad siya for the labor and also for the overhead, it should be within 1,220 because if the cost exceeds mula pa sa 1,220, dili na niya ma-achieve si 80 pesos nga desired profit, dili niya ma-meet tong 1 million desired net income. So, dapat naa sa 1,220 and below. Another pricing strategy is the demand-based pricing. So demand-based pricing is also called as a customer-based pricing because it is based on the consumer demand, which is based on the perceived value. This include price skimming, price discrimination, psychological pricing, bundle pricing, penetration pricing, and value-based pricing. So there are several types of pricing under the demand-based pricing. Pricing factors are manufacturing cost, marketplace competition, market condition, and the quality of the product. So let's go to the first one. So we have the price skimming. So what is a price skimming? Price skimming is a pricing strategy in which a marketer sets a relatively high price for a product or service at first, then lowers the price over time. Objective of the price skimming strategy is to capture the consumer surplus. So this allows the firm to recover its sunk costs quickly before competition steps in. Kaya tungod kay mahal man ang iyahang initial pricing, so makover na niya ang mga sunk costs or katong nagasto niya sa pag-produce sa product. Then later on, kung naanay tight competition, alam mo na sa niya o ubos iyang price para po makakuha gyapon siya og market share. If this is done successfully, then theoretically, no customer will pay less for the product than the maximum they are willing to pay. In practice, it is almost impossible for a firm to capture all of this surplus. Price skimming is suitable for products that are highly anticipated, innovative, or of the moment, and which have no real competition. Example would be electronics and gaming. So think about the new Apple products selling at a premium, or the latest PlayStation that customers are willing to pay top peso for, even knowing the price will eventually drop, or that a new version will be released 1 to 2 years down the line. Okay, diba? Especially for Apple phones, we're in at release good, mahal good siya, diba? But people will still buy them because they have this certain loyalty to the product, and they feel high esteem when they buy the Apple products. So, more on ano siya for prestige or the status. Dili kay sila magunahon na sa pricing as long as they get good brands and good quality nga products. Next one is price discrimination. This exists when sales of identical goods or services are transacted at different prices from the same provider. Again, identical goods daw sila, parehas ra good nga goods, pero lahi-lahi ang price nga gi-set sa same nga seller or same nga producer. Product heterogeneity, market frictions, or high fixed costs, which make marginal cost pricing unsustainable in the long run, can allow for some degree of differential pricing to different consumers even in fully competitive retail or industrial markets. Okay? Unsa maning product heterogeneity, your products are diverse. Okay? Heterogeneous. Lahi-lahi sila homogeneous. When we say market friction, this is anything that blocks or interferes with the trade. Okay, and of course we have fixed costs. We know that these are costs that do not change in response to production or sales. Price discrimination also occurs when the same price is charged to customers that have different supply costs. Price discrimination requires market segmentation, which is the dividing your broad consumer market into subgroups based on some type of shared characteristics. So, grupuhon tong mga customers. Then, some means to discourage discount customers from becoming resellers and, by extension, competitors. Okay? So, kinahanglan kung mag-implement ka ani na naggrupo ang imuhang mga customers. And you also have ways that your customers will not become sellers later on because that will add up to your rivals, di ba? This usually entails using one or more means of preventing any resale, keeping the different price groups separate, making price comparisons difficult, or restricting pricing information. Kaya ba, lahi-lahi ang prices nga giset nimo for different customers. Or padesad nga same price but to customers that have varying supply costs. Another one would be psychological pricing. So psychological pricing is a marketing practice based on the theory that certain prices have a psychological impact. The retail prices are often expressed as odd prices. Kani, common kayo ni siya, di ba, sa mga fast food, sa mga services, sa mga salons, ba? Or even mga sanina. Uso dyan ni siya, di bitaw nila tibukoon. Like, ang mga value meals, dili i-set into kanang whole peso amount. That's, ano siya, 79 pesos, 89 pesos, or magpariban ka, 899, di ba? Nga nung dili man siya sakto ang 900, piso na lang may kuwang, di ba? Sanina, 24,399, pero i-round off nimo, di ba? 400 naman to siya, so tag 200 kada isa. So, psychological pricing, mura siya gihapon kaabot sa katong rounded off na amount. For example, kani 19.99, this is already 20 pesos, di ba? Alang-alang magsuklian pa ka na og 1 centavo. So, mura siya naapaghapon sa tens, di ba? Pero actually, 20 yun ang kinahanglan para mapalit, di ba? So the theory is this drives demand greater than would be expected if consumers were perfectly rational. So muna siya nakasave kintahay kaya wala man siya natibuok. Bundle pricing is a marketing strategy that involves offering several products for sale as one combined product. Kana po siya kanang i-basket price siya, several items niya, ibutang na siya og one price para and then ibutang dito nga save 50 pesos, save 30 pesos nga na. But actually, some basket prices nag-ilad ready ay kung dili po ka mo kwenta. Kay kung imuha pong isama po tong individual prices adto is parehas ready ay sa iyang bundle price. So kung mag-take time ta sa pag-compute, so makaibaw kita kung asa ta makasave adto ba sa bundle price or adto bang sa individual price. This strategy is very common in the software business, in the cable television industry, and in the fast food industry, in which multiple items are combined into a complete meal. Okay, so I would always compute, especially pag dilira ako'y mukhaon, I would always compute before ordering sa fast food. Compute na ko what if ka nang palito ni na ako ning tulo ka meal. pila magasto na ako. What if ako ang pangitaon tong component ani usa ka meal nya laino na ko ang combination lahi nga akong ipang paris asa may mas makasave. So mahibaw-an nimo kung tinuod ba gyud nga atong bundle is cheaper kumpara adtong individual nga orders. But it takes time kay mag kwinta-kwinta pa man ka so malangay ka. Pero if conscious yun ka sa imuhang bayron nun, so you can do that. A bundle of products is sometimes referred to as a package deal, a compilation, or an anthology. Sometimes they would also add to the a bundle or to a basket price items that are not saleable, not really saleable no kanang dili siya halinon gud kaayo para jud ma-dispose tong nga product. So bisag dili ka tigamit ani, for example namaligya og shampoo unya gibandulan niya o conditioner unya dili gid ka tigamit sa ilang conditioner katulad yung shampoo unya kay nagbundle man siya niya gingon dito nga save blah blah blah, save 20 pesos, save 20 pesos, so palit ka kay of course you would think that you saved some peso because of buying the bundle nga product. Pero if you did not buy for the conditioner, di ba? Mas ubos unta to imuhang mabayaran adto. Di ba? Kung imuhang computon, perhaps mas ubos ang imuhang mabayaran nato kay wala na good giapil tong conditioner. Pero kay kana laging ma-convince ta nga naka-save, o bito na nga psychological pricing, ma-convince ta nga naka-save just because mo ni ang gi-declare nila nga save 20 pesos, save 30 pesos, mo palit ta. Pero pwede man unta dita mo palit adtong kauban sa bundle. Di ba? So nahalinan gid sila, nahalinan na gid tong product nga dili unta to kaayo halinon. Even in online shopping, they have this add-ons. Ingo nila nga save 10 pesos, 20 pesos if you add this to the other item that you already added to your cart. So, marketing gid na nila para mahalin tong uban nga products. Then we have penetration pricing. That is the pricing technique of setting a relatively low initial entry price, often lower than the eventual market price to attract new customer. Bali ni siya adtong kinaunahan katong price skimming. Kaya ang price skimming is they set a high price initially and then lowers the price later on. This one is, ang ilahang pambungad nga price is a low price para maka-attract dayon og customer. The strategy works on the expectation that customers will switch to the new brand because of the lower price. Penetration pricing is most commonly associated with a marketing objective of increasing market share or sales volume rather than to make profit in the short term. Unlike sa price skimming, di ba nga, nag-set sila high nga price to cover immediately their sunk cost. And later, kaya na nilang maka-lower of price kaya nakabawi naman sila. Ano siya is, dili kaya sila nag-mind on the profit. Ang importante sa ilaha is they can get customers. And then later on, kung ma-maintain nila ito ilahang market share, then they can earn the desired nila nga profits later on. As long as na sila nakuha nga market. The main disadvantage with penetration pricing is that it establishes long-term price expectations for the product as well as image preconceptions for the brand and company. This makes it difficult to eventually raise prices. So kung imuhang pambungad na sa mga customers mo is barato imong baligya, maglisod sad ka o charge of higher prices later on. Kaya na may expectation sa ilaha nga ang imuhang yung gi-offer nga products and services are barato. Okay? And also, they would think na tungod kay barato imuhang baligya, maybe dili kaayo siya ana kanindot ang quality. Okay? So pwede siyang makahatag og conceptions. Penetration pricing can be an effective marketing tool to introduce a large audience to the product or brand. It's a common approach with online subscriptions where you might be offered 1 month free or 50% of the regular price in the hope that you will remain with the service once your offer period ends. So, naagini siya, tinuod gini siya. We also see it used with taxi services like Uber and its competitors. So, nadya nga ni nga mga online subscription, they offer lesser, cheaper price in the first few months, and then later on, mo na yun itong ilahang full blast na yun nila nga pricing. It can be a useful strategy for generating high sales volume in a short period of time and building a buzz as customers flock to check what the fuss is about. Of course, kita nga mga customers, ganahan man gyud ta og barato. The risks, of course, are that savvy customers take you up on your initial offer but return back to their usual brand or find another discounted offer once their trial period is over or their curiosity has been satisfied. So kung na exhaust na nila o na enjoy na nila tong imong low price, mabalik na po din sila eventually sa ilahang usual na brand. It can also kick off price wars with competitors, meaning you'll need to live with lower profits for longer. Then we have value-based pricing. So value-based pricing does what it says on the tin. So a business using this approach will price your products based mainly on what the actual or perceived value of goods or services is. So dili lang siya nagpa-price kay para lang yun maka-catch og attention or para lang maka-grab og mga customers or mag-set og price kay gani ang gusto na ko nga target profit or mag-set ko og price kay gusto na akong bawion yun ang ako ang gasto. Dili nga na ang iyahang basis for pricing. Ang ilaha is kung pila gyud ang value or worth sa ilahang products or services, mao sad ang ilahang iset nga price. Value-based pricing sets prices primarily but not exclusively on the value perceived or estimated to the customer rather than the cost of the product or historical prices. So, asa man siya applicable? Unsa man klase mga products or services? Nga usually, they base their pricing on the value. So, we have emotions on emotions, like fashion, diba? Regardless kung ang ilang competitors kay mahal or barato in the market, because they know that our product is this worth, we can sell it at this amount even if this is very expensive. In niche markets, in shortages, like drinks at open air festival at a hot summer day, for indispensable add-ons like printer cartridges, headsets for cell phones, for tailor-made goods, okay, bespoke meaning customized na siya, okay, or expert services. So depende gid sa unsa gyud pagama mao pod iyang pricing, and craft products like jewelry or premium alcohol, for example. It can also work well for items that come with extras or those made popular because of associations with high-profile people or events. By definition, long-term prices based on value-based pricing are always higher or equal to the prices derived from cost-based pricing. And last strategy that you can apply could be competitor-based pricing or competitive pricing. Okay, so in this strategy, you look at the prices that are offered by your competitors, okay, and you will set that as your target sales price. So in the competitor-based pricing, this strategic approach is applied wherein a company tries to match or perhaps better the price point set by key competitors with the industry. So kani magtan-aw ka sa unsay pricing nila nga naon po nimo siya pag presyo. Kung sa cost plus is na nakay gasto, ada nimo siya og markup. Okay? And then ang the target costing is na nakay gusto nga selling price, and then imuhang consider ang desired profit kani siya is magtan-aw ka kung pila man ang prices sa imuhang competitors, and then maupod imuhang mahimong basis for your pricing. This is useful for new entrants who are trying to achieve efficiency and low price of more mature and established competitors. I think nga ni usually sa merkado, diba? Kung ani ka sa usa ka tindahan and then bali na po ka sa pikas nga tindahan, usually they have the same pricing. Dili po magpalabaw ang isa, pare-parehason po niya kung pilay offer po sa pikas. So, dili po siya magpa cheaper po pag-ayo, dili po siya magpamahal. So, kung unsa may mga baligya sa competitor, mausad po ang iset nga price. Competitive pricing is all about setting a price point in relation to similar products sold by other companies, the one that will give you a competitive advantage. This is often used in saturated markets with mass sold goods that are well established, like for example, chewing gum, big box beer, household products, or services like cleaning or dining. It can also work with businesses with wide range of goods who want to use the price point of one product as entry point for customers to buy other products. So in the competitive pricing, you will need to keep a close eye on your competitor. So bantayan yun mo kung pila man ilahang pricing. You'll want to know when they drop their prices or offer promotions, and you'll want to think about how to use creative marketing techniques to give your products an edge, especially at times when undercutting isn't financially viable. If you go with this approach, particularly if your competitor pool is large or aggressive, you'll need a good tracking system to keep you abreast of their movements so you can react quickly if need be. So, kinahanglan yun kang magsigig bantay kung unsa naman ang presyohan sa imuhang mga kakompetensya. So, here are some real-world pricing strategy examples. Okay, so for streaming services, so we have Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, Disney Plus, Hulu, and other similar streaming services. So if you have noticed, they offer almost same amounts for their subscription. That's because these companies have adopted competitive pricing, or at least a form of it, which is called as the market-based pricing or the competitive pricing. So, nag-agad na po sila kung pila po offer sa uban po nila nga competitors. Then, we have Salesforce. So, what is this Salesforce? This is a American company, which is a cloud-based software company focused on CRM, customer relationship management. So they handle marketing, sales, commerce services, and IT on a cloud-based system. So kaning Salesforce, when they first came out, they were the only CRM in the cloud. Armed with groundbreaking deployment and target customer of a large enterprise, Salesforce could charge what they wanted. So sila may makabuot. So later, after they'd grown, they were able to lower prices so small businesses could sign up, and their strategy is price skimming. Since sila may nag-introduce, sila pa yung nag-initiate ani nga type of cloud management system online. So, makaset gyud sila og higher prices. Pero, kung gusto sila nga na others nga mo tangkilik sa ilahang system, so ilahang gi ubos-ubusan later on. Then we have Dollar Shave Club. So at one time, you couldn't turn on your TV without an ad for Dollar Shave Club telling you how much cheaper they were than razors at the store. Although an aggressive marketing strategy and advertising like that is unusual for the pricing model, they were nevertheless employing economy pricing. So it worked well for them. They were acquired by Unilever in 2016 for a reported 1 billion. Diba? That much. So what is this Dollar Shave Club? So this is an American company that delivers razors and other personal grooming products by mail. So door to door gid siya nga ipadalag yun, di ba? Sa inyo sa inyong balay. So mo ni siya si Dollar Shave Club. So they employ economy pricing. And what is this economy pricing? So it is a volume-based pricing strategy. They price their products low to gain revenue based on the number of customers who purchase your product. So kay low man iyahang selling price, so daghan ka og customers nga ma-attract and adto sila makakuha og ginansya. So this is a strategy that was adopted by the Dollar Shave Club, and it worked out well for their company. In fact, gipalit gud sila sa Unilever for $1 billion. Okay, I think this is dollars. Or $1 billion in 2016. Okay, not 1 billion pesos. $1 billion. So that is how successful their company was, diba? That attracted Unilever and bought the company. So their parent company is the Unilever. Okay, so those are the strategies that could be employed depending on what is suitable to your types of products, type of company, and also your target customer. So you can choose one specific strategy, or you can combine that with other pricing strategies. What is important here is that we make wise decisions in terms of how we price our products, because the pricing of our products will be detrimental in the operating income of our company, ultimately to our net income. If we set prices that are not enough to cover other expenses aside from our costs, then we will not earn profits. So mo na nga importante nga sakto gyud ang ato ang decision making with regards to pricing of our products.
If you like this video, don't forget to click like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be updated with the latest video lessons. Thank you for watching.